So hello, I'm here with Vanecia and Niamoko, my dear longtime friend, and a visual media arts student at Emerson College in Boston, and an active social justice promoter and a proud supporter of the Black Lives Matter movement. So in an open letter to the City of Beverly, you, among other things, say that Americans are taught from a Eurocentric perspective. How should education change so that it's not only about the white man?
Well, someone once told me that history is written by the winners, right? So like imagine that you're being told a story about some really big event, right? And you're only getting one side of the story. Obviously, like whatever emotions and whatever understanding that you then develop from hearing that story is going to be completely biased because it's going to be based off the information you got from the person who told you, right? So if we want to break down these internally racist systems and structures in education, we do have to understand that there are multiple angles to a story. So to kind of start breaking down these Eurocentric taught on stories, you have to like branch out on who's writing these stories. You know, think about where are these stories coming from. Think about the people that are being portrayed and how they're being portrayed, and how is your influence, the person who is teaching these stories, how is your influence like impacting how these people, the people who are listening to you, are intaking that information?
So do you think we should have a more diverse community of teachers?
I would say yes, but also it's about whenever I learned about Africa, you know, anything involving Africa, it was always about imperialism. So of course, and whenever I think about Africa, one of the main things I can think about is slavery. And it's like, is that the only history that that is embedded, that is ingrained in the oldest continent on the planet? Is that the only history that Africa has? Slavery? Same with Asia. Like whenever we learned about people, like the Latin America, whenever we learned about people with darker pigments, it was always about imperialism. So it's like if we want to break down these Eurocentric ideologies, what I'm trying to say is that it's not just about who's teaching it, but it's also about who's being told this information. It's about who wrote the information. It's about how much information are we giving people? How much are we not showing? Like, how can we completely show a full circle view about what happened, you know? Because it's super important to always have as many perspectives put into something, because you don't want to always have everything be one perspective, one side. You want to have as many multiple sides to a story as possible, because obviously we like the winner write history. You know, whoever survived a battle is going to be the person that's going to be talking about it to everybody else. So we're only ever going to understand that battle from that person.
So do you think, or is there an example of a place in America or the world where people aren't discriminated, or they are, say, on the same level, preferably it not be a homogeneous community? Since
the thing is that like prejudice is not a cultural thing. Prejudice is actually just an ingrained subjective thing. We all have internalized prejudices. So whether or not there is no actual racial diversity in a community, you will always find some type of oppression, because the fact that people often handle our prejudices, our inherent prejudices first. We don't always handle it the same way. So whether, for example, I know there are some places where, you know, it's homogeneous, but you know, there are class systems. So class system is just another example of oppressive social structures, you know? So like, I don't think that there is really anywhere I can really make a statement that there is really anywhere in the world that there is absolutely total freedom, that there is absolutely nothing going on like bad. Because that would be a ridiculous, like hugely a ridiculous assumption. But what I can say is that in order for there to possibly be some type of society that exists in that idea, in that way, we do have to first unlearn every single type of bias that is socially associated, you know.
And lastly, why do you think that all cops are bad and police is an inherently racist institution? Are there any solutions how to get out of this situation of the police being, as you say, inherently racist institution?
Yeah. So this one is like the trickiest for me as a statement. You know, I still truly believe that all cops are bad. But sometimes it's hard for me to stick to that because I've often met police officers that I've had a like friendly relationship with. So it's like people are like, then how can you say that all cops are bad? But it's because often people don't understand that it's not about the man in the uniform, you know, the person in the uniform. It's actually about the uniform itself. You know what I mean? Like the uniform is kind of like a superhero's cape. You know, you put it on, all of a sudden you're a superhero. So you have all this power, you know, you have all this power over everybody else. And that is completely just wrong. You know, why is it that my next door neighbor looks like a regular old man, but puts on a cop uniform and I get scared? It's because he now has the power over me to create rules and to kind of get away with whatever he possibly wants to get away with, if he wanted to, you know? So if we want to get rid of that system, we have to think back about the past. Like, where did the system create? Like, when were the police created? Why were they created? And why is it that they have that when you become a cop that you can take on that power? You know, we just need to find a way to kind of decrease that in-between power, that power between the civilian and the cop.
And are you afraid of someone or of a cop that is of color as well, or a black guy in a police uniform? Do you view him the same way as you would view, for example, your neighbor that you just talked about?
Yes, absolutely. Because one, race is a social construct. So I'm not gonna always see every black person and be like, they're my best friend because they're black. Like it's everybody has a different relationship with their skin color. It's the truth, you know? Some people think their skin color makes them like superheroes, gods, makes them better than everybody else. And some people think their skin color is something to be afraid of, something to just not share, you know? So I don't know, you know, the man in the uniform, if what his relationship with his race is, you know? I don't know that. And the point of the matter is, it doesn't matter whether or not I know that. It matters that he is, or she, or they are in a good mood that day, or if they actually have morals and they're not racist, and if they're not transphobic, if they're not homophobic, if they're not sexist. Like, I have to think about these things. I have to literally think about these things when I walk into a cop, and that is impossible. That's terrible. You know, imagine if like I could never really talk to you or engage with you or have an actual healthy relationship with you because I was always having to think about, well, Martina has all this power, you know, I don't know if Martina, you know, is mad at me today and how Martina's gonna act on me just because they're mad, you know. And the thing is, if like you did get mad, you know, and you'd have the right to just kind of like do whatever you want to me, it's like, of course I'm scared. So I don't care.
Right.
Whether or not you're black, whether or not you're queer, whether or not you're a woman, but as soon as you put on that cop uniform, you solely become that uniform.
So do the police have that much power in the United States? Like, they can basically do whatever they want?
Yeah, pretty much. I like the way the United States runs really irritates me because there's too much power reliant on the states. So each state gets to decide pretty much a lot of rules that the federal government should be deciding, in my perspective. So it's like, some communities in some states are going to be a lot harder and have more like restrictions on their police officers, and other states will have looser restrictions. So it's like you could go to like another state an hour away and there'll be a completely different law for how cops can act, which is like, what? Why? I mean, that is something amongst several things the United States should have as a federal law. I mean, that's the first thing.
So, but basically, all in all, you say that they have big power, and whatever they do to you, they can somehow find a reason for it.
Like
find reason for what they have done to you.
Oh, justification movie.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Everything. I guess how I view cops is that everything they do is justifiable in the society, and that's scary as heck.
So is there something wrong with the society, maybe? The way society views cops, or is it about how the rules, or by what rules cops play or go by?
It's about multiple things. For me personally, what I see it as it's a problem in how, when I say society, I mean the rich white elite view cops as a way to kind of control and push on their perspective. You know what I mean? So like the people who love cops the most, who are they? Like the rich white like elite, because they say it keeps our community safe. Well, whenever like a white person I've learned says something is meant to keep the community safe, it just means it gets rid of anything that they don't like. Literally. I mean, every time whenever I talk about like the communities that I grew up in to a white person or the communities I want to live in that doesn't really have a high white population in it, I always get, oh, that's a very unsafe area. Like, why? Why is it unsafe? Because there's people of color there, you know, because they're people of lower class. It's like, from my perspective, I see that the way cops are used as a way for like the white agenda to be pushed onto everybody else. The rich, I would say male, you know, agenda is often used to push, you know.
And how should we solve this problem, or how should we get out of this situation of the cops having power, according to your words, and getting rid of people that aren't compliant, I guess? Is it a revolution inside the police itself, or does it have to come from the government?
I think this kind of goes back to the previous questions you asked me, because again, whenever we want something that is so heavily embedded in a society, something that is structurally strong, you know, in order to break down anything that is so structurally strong, you have to go all the way back to the subjective root, right? Because you have to think like, in order for a society to look the way I want it to look, I have to first think about how I want to be portrayed in a society. I think in able to get rid of a lot of these structural systems that are negatively impacting people have to like start unlearning things inside of them. We have to learn about ourselves and unlearn the things that we don't want to portray publicly, or the things we don't want people to see us socially. And we have to start accepting that, yes, we have biases. We're human beings, right? Yes, we have problems. Yes, we are not perfect, right? But if we want to have a society where people can actually be okay with having prejudices, people can actually exist happily and comfortably. Happily is a bit of a strong word. Comfortably is a better word, just comfortably. We have to start with ourselves, and we have to like stop seeing that cops are as the solution to making our communities safer. Start understanding why is it that like we use the word safer. What does safer mean? You know, think about our fears, right? When you walk into something new, completely by yourself, you know, what are the first fears you think of? Like, what are you scared about when you walk into a room and you don't know anybody at all, right? And you're completely by yourself. Like, what is the first thing that scares you, you know? And why does it scare you? Always ask why, right? I think whether or not police are going to be abolished or defunded are really, 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 really big, like big social statements that I don't really want to engage with. I think personally what I'm interested in is how the individual human being is going to progress internally, spiritually. Yeah.
So is basically what the Black Lives Matter movement is doing is awakening society, telling them, hey guys, there's something wrong in the society. Every single one of us should look at oneself and really evaluate how I'm living, what my values are, and rethink myself, basically.
I think it definitely is. Yeah, I think it definitely was a movement that it was, the point of it was to wake people up. Most people don't often think about the Black Lives Matter movement was actually started because of the unjustful killing of teenager Trayvon Martin, and how his killer never, like Trayvon Martin's death was never, you know, given justice that it was deserved, and he was a teenage boy. And the point of the movement was started to just say, like, that's not okay, you know, that he's not the first teenage boy who was killed so purely off of biases, you know. Think about Emmett Till, you know, and think about just all these people, all these names that go all the way back. And the Black Lives Matter movement wasn't really a movement that's supposed to divide, which some people often, I've seen some people quick to think it's a division act, but it was actually a movement to wake people up and get people to start thinking, you know, which is why I loved it so much, because I was like, I have to think. I have so many biases. It's crazy. Like, oh my goodness. And so I'm not at a place where I'm like, oh my God, I'm so woke, I'm so down with everybody, like peace, love, and harmony. Like, no, like I'm in a place where I'm like, okay, like I have a lot of prejudices, I have a lot of biases. I've been called out so many times. Even after the letter, so many people have called me out for things I've said. And like, it's valid. Like I have to accept that I have prejudices, but like the movement like it's supposed to wake people up. Like, understand that like you have to hold yourself accountable before you can hold others accountable.
I think we all have prejudices and biases. And Vannie, I so thank you for this very short interview. And see you soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.